Hi, welcome to State of Ed podcast. I'm here at the gorgeous Sagamore Resort in Lake George with the one and only Dr. Joe Sanfelippo, and he is a speaker. He is an educator, a retired superintendent, and the author of a number of books, including the one I'm holding, Lead from Where You Are. So,
That's
Dr.
the
Joe,
one.
thanks so much for joining me
Thanks for
here at
having me. I
this.
appreciate it.
We could not have gotten a better weather
No,
here at Sagamore and Lake George.
this is about as nice a place as you're gonna find, man. This is pretty sharp. Pretty sharp.
So thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. You're the featured speaker here at the conference. Can you just give me a little preview? I know it's a little bit later this afternoon. What's kind of at the heart of what your talk is about?
I think the biggest thing that I try to get to people, especially leaders, because we're talking to principals today, is like we're in charge of taking care of the adults who are taking care of the kids. But who's in charge of taking care of the adults who are taking care of the adults who are taking care of the kids? And the answer is not too many people. So the question becomes, how do we make sure that we're taking care of each other in an industry where not a lot of people are taking care of us? And a lot of times people tend to make up what we do because they don't know exactly what we do. So we put ourselves in a really difficult position. So trying to be intentional about stuff and create connections and then provide direction for the work that we do is really important. And it gets all bogged down in this day-to-day rat race that we're in. Get to the end of the day and you're exhausted, but you don't know why you're exhausted. So trying to create some intention in terms of the connections that we have with people, I think are going to be helpful to everybody today. So that's kind of what we're going to lean into, I think, for the most part today.
So as a former school superintendent, how many years were you superintendent?
12 years superintendent, 8 years as principal.
So as a leader for 2 decades, you obviously are very familiar with the rat race. So
Yeah.
what was that like, and how did you kind of overcome that as a leader to help really lead from where you
Sure.
were and help folks kind of not suffer the negative consequences and negative connotations of the rat race?
I think the thing that I tried to do was so what happened was I just kept walking past all of these things to get to the next thing that needed to get done. And I think that's what really kind of drove me down. And when I realized that I was walking past these incredible things happening all around me just to get to the next thing that's on the list, I think I was able to take a step back and realize that these things brought me joy. So like, if you're like, I'm not out here trying to tell people that they have to create a bunch of new stuff because you don't have time for that, but just to lean into the stuff that's already going on. And if you do that, you'll feel better. The people around you feel better. We talk about this opportunity for us to recognize great work, acknowledge great work, and extend great work. And I think, like, I'm not that bright. So, I mean, we try to keep it as simple as possible, man. And I think if you can, lead with intention, connection, direction, while also recognizing great work, acknowledging great work, and extending great work, now all of a sudden you put yourself in a different position. So that's kind of where I found myself growing, was not being bound by that list all the time, even though the list needed to get done. What was I walking past to get to the next thing that had to get done?
How did you create a buffer? 'Cause
Mhm.
I'm a school leader myself, and sometimes I feel like one of my responsibilities is to try to create a buffer between the teachers in my school, what's going on in my building, and everything that's trying to impose its will
Yeah.
from the outside. So what were some of the things that you did as a school leader to kind of help create that buffer so you could take full advantage and encourage people to be the best that they can be?
The first thing is that we realized that nobody was changing the way they talk about us until we changed the way that we talk about us. So I think the first thing for us was just making sure that we talked about each other a little differently. And if you talk about people inside the building better and more often when you're outside of the building, then the outside of the building stuff doesn't tend to creep in nearly as much. It still does, but like there are things that we can't control. So we're not going to deal with the things that we can't control. What we can control is how we talk about each other.
Can you give me an idea, like an example of one thing that jumps out at you where when it happened, you said, this is an example of exactly what I wanted to accomplish?
So when I got hired, the board asked me, or the board said, we have a lot of really great things going on here, but nobody knows about them. So, and I said, look, I'm not going to be the best superintendent that you hire, but I'm...
That was your interview?
Yeah. So I said, but
Okay.
I'm super loud. So if there are great things going on here, then we're going to talk about them. So I think the biggest thing, I don't know if it was one particular thing. We talked about getting a win early, right? So when we got a win early, we did this one thing where it was 2011. Like we did things a lot like earlier than a lot of people. Like we live streamed basketball games before a ton of people. We got Wi-Fi on buses before a lot of people. We started telling our story a little bit better than a lot of people. So I think it was all intentional at the time. But I think we did this one thing on like the first year that I was there. We had the teachers in the auditorium for the first day of school. And I called the two TV stations. I said, hey, we got something really cool happening here. You might want to be, I can't tell you what it is, but you're going to want to be here for that. It's going to be awesome. And just kind of gave them a little level of like interest. And so when they came out of their meeting in the auditorium, I had kids that came in and just were lined up like they were at the Oscars and taking pictures and celebrating them. And one TV station was there and the other one wasn't. And the one TV station that was there, that clip got viral real quick. And so that group was much more willing to come because they knew it was going to be something special. The other group was willing too. It's like, darn it, we missed it. Right. So here we go. So make it up. I think trying to get a win in early was really helpful to all of us. But it just kind of goes back to, I don't know if it was one big thing other than being in this mentality where you recognize great work, acknowledge great work, and extend great work. If you extend one story about stuff going on in your school to somebody who doesn't see it every day, all of a sudden things change. Because if I'm the one that's doing it, that's one person, that's 5 stories a week. Okay, that's fine. That's not a big deal. But we got 120 staff members. Let's say even 30% of those staff members decide that they want to do it. I mean, the numbers just are astronomical. And the thing about it is then people that see that stuff going on want to be part of that conversation too. So I think we're always just kind of living in this recognize, acknowledge, extend world. And then all the people that were leaving school, it ended up staying, and we retained 89% of teachers that we hired from 2010 to 2023, and it didn't have anything to do with money. It had everything to do with people just feeling like they wanted to be there. And that wasn't a Joe thing, man, I'm telling you, because if I'm the only one talking about it, then it's just they're waiting for me to be there.
Right.
But when they're all doing it, it just changes the way they operate.
So how long does it take to shift culture? I have this debate with my co-host on the podcast who's not here at this conference, but we have this debate all the time. Like, how long does it take to actually shift culture? So in your experience, what was that time frame before you started to really see, because schools are like cruise ships, like you turn the wheel, but like you're still going in the same direction that you were going.
Right.
And later on, it starts to make a turn. So in your experience, what was that time frame?
Yeah, I kind of dispute that because I think that the culture of the building is really built in literally 30-second increments. So there's 960 30-second opportunities to change the conversation about who we are. And when you look at it that way, it doesn't feel like a 3-year process. It just ends up happening. So I would say in our group, it was less than a year. In groups that I work with now, across the country, less than a year. I mean, honestly, I think before you get fully implemented and stuff, you're a couple years out. But at the same time, you can change the way that people talk about your school literally in the first month. And then you build on that momentum. And then you can get like the honeymoon period just ends up staying a little bit longer.
Is the key to find like the early adopters and begin with those folks, like your disciples, so to speak?
Yeah.
Like, how do you know how to identify those folks?
That's a great question. It's actually one of the chapters in the book is about leadership, change an organization. And, all organizations are built into 5 different levels, right? And so you have your 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s. Schlechte calls them trailblazers, pioneers, standardized, stay-at-homes. Everett Rogers talks about the early innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority. I wasn't that smart, so I just called them like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So like, here's how they operate. Like if you say to your group that you need everybody to run through the wall, the 1s just start running.
Right.
Because you said go, they're going to go. The 2s are like, okay, so I'm going to wait until the 1s are almost through the wall, and then I'm going to push them, and then I'm going to show up there even though I didn't do all the work.
But when the picture's taken at the wall, they'll be
I'm
in
there,
it.
right? The 3s are like, I love what I'm doing, so I'm just going to stay here doing what I'm doing for a little bit. And then when the hole in the wall is perfectly framed out and swept up and wide enough where I can bring my stuff, then I'll go over to the other side of the wall. And the 4s are like, I'll go really, really slowly. Because my hope is by the time I get to the wall, there's a change in leadership. Right. And then you people are going to make me run through another wall.
Or is there a time card?
Right. And the 5s are like, I ain't going. And I'm going to put every brick in the school district up against the wall before the 1s start running into it. So I think when you identify where your people are and how to help them move, the interesting thing about that we found in the research was the group that you have the biggest impact on is obviously the one that you're connected to, but then the one that you're in. But the next biggest is the group that you're connected to. So 1s have impact on 2s, less on 3s, 4s, and 5s. But it goes the other way. 2s have impact on 3s, less on 4s and 5s, but they also have big impact on 1s. So when you can start grouping people together, and then can group the 4s with the 3s. There's nothing wrong with the 3s. They just don't want to build a bunch of new stuff, right? So when you connect those two groups, now the 5 has a decision to make. Either they stay being a 5 with less people to talk to, or they move to a 4 and they move to the wall slowly, but they're not putting up bricks. So you're all of a sudden you can keep moving people forward because nobody's like hampering the process.
So in your span as a principal and as a superintendent, obviously there was massive technological shifts that occurred. Did you kind of incorporate these kinds of strategies and these ideals in trying to get people to embrace the technology and leverage it in the classroom? Did you find it was kind of similar, or was it a departure from that?
Yeah, no, I think it was probably similar. I think, though, we try to take them on at their pace. We did this one thing, and it's called passion projects. And so we did all these passion projects for adults because we wanted kids to own learning. But kids weren't going to own learning until our adults knew what it felt like to own learning. So we let them own the learning. And then so they just had to do one thing new every year that took them out of their comfort zone, and then talk about it at this big street fair that we have at the end of the year. It's awesome. And they just talk about what they learned and if it worked or if it didn't work, and just be really honest about the process. And it was amazing because 90% of it had a technology, component to it, but I didn't require it. We didn't require it, I guess.
Did they just assume that that's what you were kind of going for, and that's why they maybe brought that inherently to the table?
I'm going to say no, because I'm not the one that built it. Like, I built it, but I told 6 teachers to build it, and I said, like, I'll support anything you want. I didn't have any administrators build it. I'm like, you just take 6 people that are doing great things. How are you going to get any better? And then let them build it. And they did. And so I just I think when they talked to, a lot of their examples had technology components, as part of what they were doing. So that's probably where it started. But for the most part, it was just really about creating an environment where they could try to do something new without feeling like they had to keep everything close to the chest.
Right.
And they were going to get, yelled at for not getting something right. So.
Right, and that's where trust comes in.
Yeah.
Right, so they have to trust, otherwise they're going to think that it's you're going to be jumping out from behind the bushes if something goes south. For the administrators who are watching this and listening to this, what's the key to hiring, training, and retaining the best people?
You got to believe in them, and you got to make sure that they have the support that they need, not that you think that they need. If we wait to support people until they're at their breaking point, then I would argue that we're not supporting them. So, we have had a great mentoring program, and it was all run by teachers, and it went beyond, here's where the bathroom is and here's how you get paid. It's like, how do you just lean into each other on a regular basis? So I would check in with them. I think you have to be systematic about the checks. Like, you check in, more in the first month, a little bit less in the second month, and then every other month, and I think those have to be formal in terms of just so they know that you're supporting them. I was like, so it's interesting. It's funny because I just put out this post on the 1st of July all the time, and every year for however many years, five years probably at this point. And I'm like, okay, new superintendents, new principals, right? So here are your 3 pieces of advice. One is you don't know anything. You don't know everything. So don't pretend to, because they know you don't know everything.
Love that.
Right? The second one is that the farther that you get from the classroom, the harder it is to make suggestions or decisions about the place. So make sure you stay connected there. And the third one is, I hear people all the time, it drives me nuts. People say all the time, I just want to hire good people and get out of the way. I'm like, no, you're not a search firm. That's not what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Hire great people and then help them get better.
Right.
Because you want to be part of that growth too. Because then otherwise, if you're not, what are you doing? So I think I try to just be real with people and understand that the difference between being right and being real. If you're always trying to be right, you can never be real. So just being able to lean into them. And I think that's kind of where we got the greatest majority of people to stay, was because they just believed that the people around them wanted them to get better.
Did you find that the preparation that they were receiving in college wasn't necessarily preparing them for the realities of the classroom?
That's a loaded question. But if you don't want me to ever speak in colleges again, but
you can pass on it.
I think it's just different. And I think the best colleges in the world are the ones that are still connected to buildings, where the professors are still connected to buildings.
Right.
So if you are in a place where the people that are in front that are talking about the philosophy of what you do if they can tell you that they've been in a school in the last 6 months, then you're going to be in a better place.
Right. And the reason I bring that up is because we'll get student teachers and they'll come in and they'll show us a 5-page lesson plan.
Yeah.
And I'm doing the math in my head. If you have 3 preps a day and
Yeah.
you have to write 15 pages, that's 75 pages of written material a week. Like Stephen King can't keep up
No,
with
you're
that
not doing
pace.
that. And they're not
So-
going to do it. So then they're going to just go to ChatGPT and write it and turn it into you and call it good,
Right. Exactly.
which is exactly what I would do.
I think that's what everybody would do, and that's what I mean. So that I sometimes find that there's a disconnect when we don't want there to be a disconnect. We really want them to be able to come in and have a much easier segue. But
Yeah.
in my personal experience, it's not always that way.
Right. I agree with that.
It's not always that way. Last question for you is: I first kind of found you online a bunch of years ago. You were taking walks from your
Yeah.
home to school. They were like 1-minute walks, and I guess you happened to live super close to the school. So how did that kind of start up, and what did you learn by kind of having that moment where you're talking to yourself and to others on the way to school every day or home?
Well, I think it kind of came in 2 forms. And like the first one was I'm super loud. So when I got up in the morning on Saturday, and I live across the street from school, I still live across the street from school. I was just walking around, I'm making noise, and then everybody wakes up, and then they get mad at me because they woke up. And so I just got up and went to school because I could be there, nobody's there at 6 o'clock in the morning, so I can just kind of work and hang out and whatever. But so then when I started, like when I was going, I was thinking about things I was going to do for the next week, and I started just kind of doing a couple of videos to say, here are a couple of thoughts that you could think about. And then people started to like them. So I'm like, man, I got to figure I got to do more of these things. And then people were quoting them, and then they were trying them, and they were working. And I think the thing about the walks that I tried to make sure that everybody understood was all the things that I talk about are things that I screwed up. So like, I just don't want you to screw these things up because I messed them up pretty bad. And it took me a while to figure it out. So, I mean, just try it this way and see what happens. And then people just started to like them. And I had a great time doing them. I really did. And I think I love that they help people in little short increments, but they were fun to do. And now, I still try to do them now, but I'm not walking to work anymore. But I'm trying to walk places and just kind of keep the same concept, because these little short little vignettes that always kind of have a story about where we're going or what we can do. I think those help. The other thing that I really was intentional about was, at some point in your career as a principal or as a superintendent, at some point you're going to be stuck in front of a camera. And when you're stuck in front of a camera, it's probably not for a great thing.
Right.
And so when the response to you being stuck in front of a camera isn't clear and concise and to the point and confident, then the people on the other side of the camera are like, he must be lying. Like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's totally making this up. So the more reps I could get in front of a camera, the easier it was for me when we got sued in federal court. So I mean, like, you gotta be.
Hopefully that wasn't too often.
It was once, and it wasn't awesome. But it's like you when they showed up to talk to you, you felt confident to stand in front of a camera and say, here's what I'm thinking, and do it in a way that the people who don't have all the information feel a little bit more comfortable in that spot. It goes back to what you were talking about with trust. So, when they can see how you react to a situation, then they're more likely to lean into not only you, but to other people when they don't know exactly what's going on.
I love it.
Yeah.
The book is Lead From Where You Are, Dr. Joe.
Hey,
Can't thank you enough.
No problem.
And
Nice.
good luck with your presentation. I'm looking forward to seeing it.